So, proof that Tariq Nasheed says absolutely nothing? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, I've always said that Tariq Nasheed says absolutely nothing. He basically speaks historical facts and says white supremacy, constantly repeats white supremacy all the time, and tries to tell us or convince us, that is, that everything is white supremacy, but he never really provides any evidence. And very rarely is he ever checked on the things he says. And when he did a debate with Byron Gaines and Sneeko, it was pretty much the same. He says absolutely nothing. Now, when I say this, I believe in standing on I stand on mine. So when I say something, I believe in proving what I said. So I'm going to show that Tariq Nasheed said nothing. And again, I can't cover the whole entirety of the video, which is about the debate was about. It was more than an hour and a half, about an hour and 40 something minutes. So in order for me to cover everything he said that's nonsense, it'll be 5, 6, 7 hours of content, and which I don't have an intended. Basically, I don't intend to do. But I'm going to take a small snippet, and I'm going to start actually from the beginning, when the actual debate started at the 11th minute, because I'm going to start from the very beginning, just to show that the man says absolutely nothing.
Lying proves my point.
Hey, bro, you're in politics, bro. Come on, you already know this.
I won. When you start lying,
just let Sneeko say his piece and let Tariq say his piece.
Now, if you want to lie, go ahead and knock yourself out. If you want to start lying,
say your piece, then let
If you're going to start lying, knock yourself out. That means I won. Thank you. Now go ahead and lie. I'm good. That means I won.
If lying means he won, then him lying about white supremacy means that he lost. I mean, he always talks about white supremacy, but he never, like I say, he never provides any real evidence of white supremacy. It's always an assumption with him. So he basically came into the debate losing. And he claims to understand white supremacy, but he keeps telling black folks to be perpetual victims. Instead of telling black folks, well, this is how white supremacy works, this is how you overcome it, he keeps telling them that they're victims, which is in of itself is the ultimate lie. And since white supremacy, 95% of what is labeled as white supremacy is nothing but black inferiority, it is absolutely a lie. And really, truly, the way you overcome white supremacy is roll up your sleeves and get to work, like everybody else.
Okay, so now we established that there's a difference in the ethnicity between white people and Jewish people. Do you understand that?
And it doesn't matter because you're all practicing white supremacy. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
If they all practice white supremacy, then how is it that you can talk about white people, but you can't speak about Jews? And all he does is says white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy all day. If it was all the same, if they all practice white supremacy, you wouldn't be able to talk about white people, nor would you be able to talk about Jews. I mean, if you talked about white people, you would get removed just like the people who speak on Jews. But yet, he and everybody else can sit here and talk about how bad white folks are and talk about white folks like a dog and stay on social media with no problem. So obviously there must be a difference. There can't be a difference. So again, if they all practice white supremacy, then majority of his flex, as you say, majority of his money wouldn't exist because white supremacy would come in and shut it down, but they don't.
Why would Jewish people promote white supremacy if they're not white?
There are Jewish white supremacy. You had Jewish Nazis over here. You had Dan Burroughs. You had Frank Joseph. You had Jewish Nazis over here. What are you talking about?
The people that show allegiance to Israel, the Zionists, why would they show allegiance to white people?
Why would you have Jewish Nazis over here?
What are you talking about?
I just told you there were famous Jewish Nazis.
You talk about deflections 5 seconds.
So I guess Jews were for shipping off other Jews to gas chambers. But if there were Jewish Nazis, how does that mean that Jews and whites are all the same now? It doesn't. Again, that's just a reach and that's a stretch, which is common with race hustlers, especially the slick shysters, such as Tariq Nasheed. But I mean, Jews, or the Jews who were Nazis were the extreme exception of the Jews. That's not the rule, so you can't use the exception as a rule, you know. And I bet there were far more Jewish people who were against the Nazis than there were for the Nazis. So you can't use Jewish Nazis as any evidence of anything, because they're an exception.
Said why would Jewish people promote white
supremacy? He's giving you an example of it.
Sneako,
he's giving you an example of what Jews
that's a small minority. Like, once again,
I know, but you can't do that, Sneako. See, Sneako, he gave you the example.
Okay, Tariq, what Jewish Nazi? Wait.
Okay, well, Sneako was right here. Again, they're the exception. And one thing we know about the left is they will pull out the exception when they have nothing else. When all else fails, they will attempt to use exception as a rule, and you cannot use exception as a rule. But by his logic, though, that would mean that since the Bloods and Crips are black organizations, that means that every single black person is either a Blood or a Crip. Again, that makes no sense, because you got a gang that's basically a small percentage of black people in America. It's not the rule. So you cannot sit here and say that because there were some Nazi Jews, some Jews who were Nazis or with the alt-right or whatever, that somehow this means that the Jews were white supremacy, because a few Jews hang with some group where they were with the Nazis. Now, Tariq, again, Tommy was right. Tariq did give an example, but it was a bad example, and they never checked it. That's the problem. They should have checked that nonsense, but they didn't. One of the many problems, the flaws that Sneako and Myron did in this debate, and it is not checking Tariq Nasheed on his foolishness.
What Jewish Nazis are you talking about?
I'm talking about Dan Burroughs, Frank Joseph. You had Laura
George
Loomer.
Soros.
A lot of people in neo-Nazi organizations.
You're calling Laura Loomer a Jewish Nazi?
Well, she's a suspected white supremacist.
Okay, she
hangs around
Nazi?
the alt-right. That's a more modern example.
Great point.
A more modern example. Even Milo, that's another modern example too.
Okay, great point. So Laura Loomer, she's a Zionist. She shows allegiance to Israel. Where do you see that she promotes white supremacy?
She was with the alt-right. She was out there with Richard Spencer and all of those guys.
Okay,
so,
because she agrees with Trump. But
also,
you see right
Ben Shapiro is a suspected white supremacist.
Are you retarded?
I really don't understand what's the big deal with this alt-right nonsense that these black victims and race hustlers keep crying about the alt-right. Again, alt-right is the extreme exception of white people. Once again, the exception is not the rule. You cannot pull out an exception and try to push it off as the rule. I mean, basically, from my knowledge, the alt-right is just a group of white people that wish to preserve what's white. I don't have a problem with that, right? Because you have a bunch of black people with fists in the air. Fists in the air wants to be down with the black. So if you can be pro-black, why can't you be pro-white and want to preserve white? And are the alt-white stopping black people from achieving anything in America? No. Again, there's no job or career path or no sector to society, no occupation that's off limits to black people because of the alt-white. The alt-right. So why are we wasting our time and energy on this nonsense other than because he's a race hustler and want to keep black people stuck on stupid? Again, if I had a list of problems, the alt-right will be at the bottom of my list of worries. Again, now, the thing is that Tariq Nasheed, though he's this pro-black, always bigoted, black, and used to be all blacks until he started with the tether nonsense. But now he's all for FBA. So if he's for the FBA and always crying about victimhood, does that make him a suspected black inferiorist or a suspected black supremacist? I don't know whether it's really is there anything suspected about it at this point. But we know one thing that's not suspected about him: his logic is stupid. There's nothing suspected about that. But this just is a small breakdown, because I don't really want to go too deep into it, but this is just a small breakdown of me proving that his arguments are stupid and elementary at best. Hell, I would say it's pre-K. To call it elementary is an assault to elementary. That's an insult into elementary. He's barely pre-K with his surface level arguments that really means nothing But people keep thinking that he won this debate, which he didn't. I mean, his logic is very flawed. And the thing is, with the segment that I covered here, it was less than 4 minutes. So like I said, if I wanted to break down every stupid thing he said in this debate, that's probably 5 to 6 hours of content. But right here is proof that he says absolutely nothing. Now, anybody who disagrees, hey, please chime in and tell me where I'm wrong, but I know I'm not going to get that. All I'm going to get is the same black victims with the same ad hominem nonsense, and nobody's going to attack any of the points that I made because they can't really truly. Anyway, like I said, when I say Tariq Nasheed says absolutely nothing, I mean he says absolutely nothing, and here's your evidence. And as always, y'all, until next time.